unprecedented. Honestly, I do Zooms all the time, and I have no idea why this isn't working. So my apologies, we're getting started late here. So I have a presentation for everybody, except now I need to be re-enabled to screen share, Shelley. I need to be able to screen share. Okay, here we go. All right, so hopefully my special slideshow that I have created for you guys will make up for the 15-minute delay, because I'm super excited that I had a few graphics here. Okay, so we are all here gathered. Thank you for being interested in the Alliance for Addiction Solutions, who is hosting this public forum. I really appreciate being invited to speak today. If you're not a member of the Alliance, definitely go to the website and you can learn how to sign up as a student or a professional member, or I think it's just a general member, and Shelley can probably give you all that information at the end. But I do want to thank the Alliance for letting me speak today. So what I'm going to be talking about is nutrition foundations for a balanced brain. It's a 7-step program to balance your brain, improve your mood, stop self-sabotage, and make great choices for your life. Okay, so now if I could just go to the next page. So who am I? I'm Chris Engen. I am a nutrition consultant, certified recovery nutrition coach, advanced level 2, and I'm also board certified in holistic nutrition. I have worked now in this business, my business, Nutrition for Recovery, for 5 years, and I've helped over 800 clients use amino acid therapy and nutrition to balance their brain, resolve cravings for substances and behaviors, improve mood, sleep promote, and then if they're seeking abstinence or even just reduction of use of alcohol and drugs. I was trained by Christina, which many of you probably know, Christina Veselik at the Academy for Addiction and Mental Health Nutrition, and then Julia Ross, who's also on the advisory board and has been part of the Alliance for how long? 20 years, since the inception. I also was on the board, and I'm a member. And then a personal experience that I had in developing this program with myself being a periodic binge drinker and not being able to stop until my aha moment was addressing my nutrition and using amino acids to help with the cravings and symptoms that made me continue to do that. So again, here's after working with all of those clients and repeating myself over and over and over again and getting the data, if you will, on what is the best procedure to look at to help a person balance their brain, and that's whether it's addiction to alcohol, to drugs, process addictions, and even just or sugar, and then not even just addiction, but just brain balance in general. So mood, stress, and so forth. So these are the 7 steps that I've identified. So number 1, build your base. So that's to replenish depleted vitamins and minerals. Step 2, balance your brain with amino acids. Step 3, balance your blood sugar, and that's checking for hypoglycemia. Step 4, heal your gut. Step 5, eat real food. Step 6, check for food allergies or sensitivities and intolerances. And step 7 is move your body, exercise. So now I'm going to go through each step, kind of top line each step, and then I will put an emphasis on the actual amino acid therapy part. The last time I did a talk for the Alliance, I focused on step 3, which is hypoglycemia. So this time I'm going to focus on step 2. Step 2. So step 1, build your base. I identified 7 main supplements other than amino acids that help replenish the lost nutrients that are due to either malnutrition, drug or alcohol use, stress, genetic predisposition, or environmental toxins. 3 examples of those 7 are zinc, magnesium, and B vitamins. So zinc is really important because it helps restore liver function, supports our immune system. It's an important cofactor for amino acids, and it helps with digestion. Deficiencies in zinc can cause anxiety, cold extremities, poor circulation, loss of taste, smell, poor wound healing, lethargy, and poor appetite, acne even. And then specifically alcohol misuse can block the body's ability to absorb and use zinc. So there is something called the zinc taste test, which I love. It's a holistic test to see what your zinc status is. And how you do that is it's a liquid zinc sulfate that you can order from me. I have an online Fullscript online dispensary, or you can get it at vitamin stores. Again, it's a liquid zinc assay or liquid sulfate, and you taste about 1 milliliter, which is about a tablespoon. Hold it in your mouth for 30 seconds. And if it tastes like nothing, it means you're extremely deficient. If it tastes disgusting, it means you're optimal. And then, of course, there's a range in between. And that's a really good way to figure out what your zinc status is. Okay, so another one of the base supplements in my step 1 is magnesium. And usually people are familiar with magnesium. It's one of the more common supplements, and it's extremely important, especially with addiction recovery. Improves your mood, nervous system function, lowers anxiety, also promotes healthy heart and brain function. And it's found deficient among people using high levels of alcohol, drugs, and then also caffeine and sugar. And then deficiency in magnesium can, if you're irritable, pain, any kind of nervous system problems, sleep problems, some restless legs, magnesium deficiency could be an issue. And then especially during any kind of withdrawal from alcohol or drugs, magnesium is extremely helpful. And you can almost never, when you dose magnesium, it's kind of hard to overdose on it because most people are deficient, but you can dose it to bowel tolerance. Okay, then the B vitamins, those support metabolism, immune and nervous system, promote cell growth, healthy skin, muscle tone, liver health, cravings. It actually, believe it or not, there's a study I'm going to talk about in a minute where the B vitamins reduce cravings, help cleanse the body of toxins. And the B vitamins, especially B6, are important cofactors also for amino acids to convert to neurotransmitters. B vitamin deficiencies can cause paranoia, hyperactivity, confusion. Depression is a big one if you're deficient in B vitamins. Specifically, niacin, which is B3, is important for converting tryptophan into serotonin. And serotonin is like our inner sunshine, mood and emotion regulator. Thiamine also important for carbohydrate metabolism. Pantothenic acid helps with stress reduction. And I'm not going to read this straight off, but I just thought this was so interesting. So a lot of people who are in this field know that Bill Wilson, who was one of the founders of AA back in the 1930s, he had actually started doing studies on B vitamins and treating people with B vitamins, the alcohol use disorder clients, patients he was working with. And they found that the use of B vitamins really helped with the withdrawal symptoms, helped clear up the cravings, helped the mental outlook, positivity, helped with regenerating the liver, endocrine glands, nervous system, everything I just went over on why B vitamins are really important for recovery. Sadly, he didn't get to see any of that come to fruition, and we're all still fighting for people to realize the nutrition aspect here. And then there was a really interesting study in 1990 where rats deficient in B vitamins were more likely to choose alcohol than water. So once they replenished their B vitamins, they started to choose water again. And then it's just, again, the B complex deficiency, fatigue, depression, anxiety, etc. So even, back in 1990, there's a lot of other studies too. It's just they're most of them quite old, unfortunately. Okay, step 2 is amino acid therapy. And that's the one I'm going to go over in more depth in a little bit. Well, once I get through this. So, but you might be even wondering, what is amino acid therapy? It's a chart-based process where it helps me and other practitioners identify which neurotransmitters are deficient. And it was developed by Julia Ross. There's two versions. There's the craving type questionnaire, and then there's also an amino acid therapy chart, and I'll be going over that in a bit. So the process of amino acid therapy is to figure out which symptoms, so sadness, low moods, anxiety, stress, etc., which symptoms that you have correlate with which neurotransmitter system is deficient. And there's a really important trialing method. I think it's the most important part of amino acid therapy that might be the least talked about. And I'm going to discuss that in a bit. And one of the great things about amino acids, and they're just capsules. I don't know if you can see me, but I have a little, these are amino acids right here. They're just capsules with powder in them. They work in 2 to 10 minutes. You know immediately what works. It's biofeedback. You don't have to build up and you don't have to titrate off. Okay, so that was step 2. So first we've done build your base supplements, then it discusses amino acid therapy. Now we're looking at balancing your blood sugar and hypoglycemia. And there's definitely a link between hypoglycemia and cravings that can lead to return to use. And what can we do? So what we can do is eat a diet of low glycemic index foods and low glycemic load. And that's a little too much to talk about right now, but that is in my course, and I'll show you a chart in a minute. Food combining is super important: protein, healthy fat, and fiber. Don't eat white carbs all by themselves because they spike your blood sugar, and then that leads to a blood sugar crash, which can lead to your brain going offline, and then a rush of adrenaline that feels like a craving, and next thing you know, you're reaching for your drug of choice. So what you eat is super important to help prevent cravings. The timing of food is also important. You don't ever want to get really hungry. You don't want to get hangry, right? So every 4 hours, protein, healthy fat, and a fiber, complex carb. Supplement that is also very helpful, and that's an amino acid, is glutamine. And using glutamine between meals at a minimum of 1 gram per dose 2 to 3 times a day can really help stabilize your blood sugar. Like to think of it as the bridge between meals to help keep your brain online so you don't get that crash. This is the chart I briefly mentioned. And again, this talk isn't about the glycemic index and the glycemic load. So I just wanted you to see what kinds of foods. It's basically the foods that are not sweet. So the less sweet it is, the lower the glycemic index. And then the glycemic load refers to the serving size and how much of it person consumes, the amount, the likelihood that it will spike your blood sugar. So the green items are low on, so the left column is the index, and then the right column is the load. And the load is more important than the index, but you can look at both. I don't know, their examples are kind of funny, like peanuts, bean sprouts, I don't know. Peanuts, any kind of nuts really are going to have a lower glycemic load. Vegetables are going to have a lower glycemic load, especially the non-starchy vegetables, excuse me. All right, so I'm going to move on from that, but I do discuss that in my course in much greater detail. Then 3 tips for step 3 are to consume a minimum of half your body weight in grams of protein every day. So for those of us that don't like math, if you weigh 150 pounds, you want to get 75 grams of protein per day at a minimum. And that can be divided into 3 meals with 25 grams each. And 25 grams of protein is about 4 ounces of cooked chicken, which is about the palm of your hand. You don't want to go longer than 16 hours between the end of your last meal and your first meal of the day. And even that, I think, might be too long. I know a lot of people benefit from intermittent fasting, and it certainly can be beneficial. But I think for people in recovery, the 12-hour digestive break is a better place to be, or at least between 12 and 16 hours if you're not hungry in the morning. So that would be if you finish eating dinner at 7, that you're giving yourself till 7 a.m. the next day. And it's up till, maybe 10. And you want to eat before you get really hungry, because then it might be too late and you might experience that brain offline hypoglycemic cravings. That's very common with people in recovery. And there was actually a study, lots of studies, but determining at least like 85 to 90% of people in recovery from alcohol use disorder are hypoglycemic. Okay, step 4, heal your gut. So the number 1 tip is to chew your food, because stomachs don't have teeth. And that's an easy one to remember. That way you're slowing yourself down, mindfully chewing your food, giving your gut a head start, right? Because chewing your food is mechanical, and that's the mechanical part of digestion. There's a salivary amylase starts breaking down carbohydrate in your mouth before you even swallow. And then once it's in your stomach, there's hydrochloric acid that continues to break up the food. So if you chew your food, you're giving your stomach a huge head start. You're also slowing down and getting yourself into a parasympathetic rest and digest state. And just that 1 tip can really make a world of difference. 90% of serotonin is in the gut. We've got to really take care of our guts. Using probiotics or eating probiotic containing foods, very important. Learning how your gut works, which is part of this step in my course. The common gut issues, Candida, leaky gut syndrome, those are 2 that we see often. Candida is a yeast overgrowth. The yeast feeds on sugar, actually creating sugar cravings, and then also can cause brain fog and other issues. And then leaky gut syndrome is where there's tight junctions in the gut that toxins leak through. So that is sometimes caused by gluten intolerances and sensitivities. And again, I talk a lot more about that in the course. And then glutamine, good old glutamine. If you can get any supplement, get glutamine. It's also really good for gut repair. Maybe even though I can't hear Shelley, are there any questions? I can pause here since I've been kind of talking nonstop. If there's in the chat, anybody has a question, feel free. And then I can see the chat, so that's good. Okay, so step 5 is eat real food. And real food is seasonal, organic, unprocessed, and local. And a good way to remember that is you call it soul food. Organic protein, healthy fat, and fiber. That's what we want to eat with the low GL carbs, which are the less sweet carbs, the non-starchy vegetables, etc. Fake food. This is so easy to remember, okay? Real food is what? Real food. It grows from the ground, if God made it, it's real food. Fake food, alcohol is not a food. Added sugar, processed sugar, artificial sweetener certainly isn't a food. And processed and packaged food, anything that can sit on your shelf for a long time, found in a plastic wrapping, processed food, lots of long words and ingredients you can't pronounce, that is not real food. Okay. Sometimes. So quickly to loop this into amino acids, because it's important to say that amino acids are the building blocks of protein. Protein is one of the macronutrients that's in the eat real food diet. And yes, you can get amino acids from food, from these high protein foods, organic meats, wild caught fish, eggs, milk and milk products, if you don't have a sensitivity or you're not allergic, legumes, nuts, and seeds. For vegetarians, you want to absolutely make sure that you're getting the complete panel of amino acids using combinations like beans and rice, not just one, or else you're going to be missing some important amino acids. And animal protein is the best, especially for depression and anxiety. And that's because it contains the full panel of amino acids that we need. And then a side note, why isn't eat real food step one? And people ask me that a lot. I think, nobody really wants to take a ton of supplements every single day. I know I don't, but food is not enough when your brain chemicals are seriously depleted. So a good example is that you would have to eat 20 ounces of turkey to get the same amount of tryptophan that's in 4 capsules. So about 5 ounces of turkey is about 500 milligrams of tryptophan. And with a lot of my clients, I find that after the trialing process, they do discover they need 3 or 4 capsules of tryptophan. Not to mention, so I like to say, turbo boosts the system exactly where you need it, because if you're eating animal protein, yes, you are getting all of your amino acids, but you're certainly not getting a high enough quantity to address which neurotransmitter system's deficient. Okay, step 6, check for food allergies or sensitivities. And briefly, a true allergy, it affects the immune system. It causes the physical reactions. So, you're breaking out in rash or hives. You can't breathe, obviously. That's a true severe allergy. And then food intolerance sensitivities, they affect either the digestive system. So, one of the ones a lot of people are familiar with is lactose intolerance, getting that bloating after dairy. Also, any of the sugar alcohols ending with OL can cause gastric distress. That's another intolerance. And then the solution, or I would say my coaching after, so this is step 6, remember? So we've already gone through steps 1 through 5. So now I'm saying, okay, after you've eaten real food, which is step 5, now how are you feeling, right? We've already done the base supplements. We've gone through amino acid therapy. We've looked at blood sugar regulation. We've looked at gut health. We have dialed our diet into eat real food, and you still don't feel good. Well, we should absolutely go through an elimination diet. And that's where we take out, there's 7 main offenders that are predictable that people will react to, and removing those, so gluten, dairy, soy, amongst others, and taking those out for 21 days, and then systematically adding them back individually. And you'll know right away if that's the food that's bothering you or not. And there are blood tests that can tell you some of this, but really they don't tell you all of it. The actual diet itself, I think, is the best way to do it. It requires discipline, but it's really the best way to know. So, I mean, I know even for me, I actually did a blood test once and it came back with some items that really I didn't have any problems with. And then it didn't mention some of the items that I know I have a problem with. So I really do personally believe in this elimination diet over anything else. Step 7, I thought it was, now this isn't obviously nutrition or amino acids, but I did think it was important to talk about exercise because exercise creates endorphins. Those are our natural painkillers. We also can get self-esteem. You start to feel better about yourself, getting stronger, getting fresh air. Also, aerobic exercise is known to increase serotonin. That's the neurotransmitter I'll be talking about here in a minute. That's contributing to relaxation, confidence, sleep. Working out definitely stimulates dopamine production. And, you know, and sometimes people will say that it becomes another addiction. That's another whole separate topic, but it absolutely is something that I believe everybody should bring into their life, some form of exercise, not to punish yourself, not to impress people, just because it does promote self-love and self-care, which is same as taking care of yourself with food too, of course. And then in my course, I have a special section for endurance athletes and bodybuilders. So there's different levels of exercise, obviously, and I just want people to do what they enjoy doing. If you are an endurance athlete or work out very intensely, there's different nutritional needs that need to be met. And I spell that all out really clearly. I'm actually a distance runner and triathlete myself. So put a lot of work into that piece of it. Okay, so let's see. I'll look up and see if I have any questions. That's a lot of turkey. What's the difference in proteins? This is a question coming from Shelley on behalf of somebody else. What's the difference in protein from meat, beans, and nuts? So I will interpret that as two things. One is that, like I said, so if you're eating chicken or beef, 4 ounces is 25 to 30 grams of protein. If you're eating nuts, you have to eat so many more nuts to get to that level of protein. And same with the beans. And I do have handouts that have the specifics, but off the top of my head, I want to say it's maybe 6 grams of protein in about a 1/4 cup of nuts. So you'd have to eat an entire cup of nuts, which isn't, you know, I like nuts. I could eat that many, but it's pretty calorie heavy and also fat heavy. So, and then beans, I want to say, again, this is kind of off the top of my head, I think it's like 4 to 6 grams of protein for a 1/2 cup. So the main point there would be that you just have to, animal protein just gives you much bigger bang for your buck. And as I said before too, it has all of the amino acids, and I'm not going to rattle them all off. There's 21. They're either essential or conditionally essential or non-essential. And I do speak of that briefly in the course, but I don't think I have time to go through that all right now. So hopefully that answers that question. If anyone wants to elaborate more in the chat, go ahead. Okay, so now we're back to step 2, amino acid therapy, which is where I was going to put my emphasis here. And so, like I said, amino acids, I've got my little bottle of tyrosine here. This is my favorite. They look like this. They're little capsules filled with powder, and they target the neurotransmitter deficiencies that are causing your symptoms. All right. And so for every craving or symptom, there is an amino acid that can help. I like to say there's an amino for that. So say, I'm feeling tired. There's an amino for that. I'm feeling unfocused. There's an amino for that. They work in 2 to 10 minutes. And again, using Julia Ross's craving type questionnaire and her amino acid therapy chart, that's what I use to go through. And in this course, it is self-paced, but you get 100% access to me via Messenger for any question you have. I'm extremely available and there to answer everything. And then also you learn the trialing method. So what are amino acids? Building blocks of protein in the body. They repair muscle fiber, create the hormones we need for communication, and they're precursors to neurotransmitters. This is a big slide. Long story short, neurotransmitters are the chemical messengers in your brain. They're either excitatory or inhibitory. They're made of amino acids responsible for energy levels, mood, sense of well-being, help us to cope with stress. If the neurotransmitters are out of balance, your brain function is not optimal and your overall well-being will be compromised. Okay. And I have already mentioned this, what people always wonder, well, what causes the depletion? Stress is huge. Obviously drug and alcohol use, but even just standard American diet. Sometimes there's a genetic predisposition, environmental dietary toxins, and lovely pharmaceuticals. They can all deplete our neurotransmitter levels. Okay, so I'm going to pause just for a second to see if there's any other questions. Okay, Shelley, on behalf of somebody, asked, what is your story? How did you get into the field of amino acids? So that is a good story. And as I mentioned in my introduction, I used to struggle with binge drinking. And even though I was always extremely, I thought, healthy with my diet, with my exercise, very disciplined, even though I, had a high GPA and a scholarship and all of these wonderful things, I could not stop that behavior. And it was baffling to me. I didn't understand it at all. And when I went to school, it's a second career. This is, and in 2016, when I went to Bowman College for holistic nutrition and culinary arts in Berkeley, California, I actually went in person and took notes with a little notebook, just not that long ago. I was in the middle of class one day on the section about mental health nutrition, and it was like a huge light bulb went off. I couldn't even believe it. Reading about amino acids, neurotransmitters, how food could affect our mood. I'd never thought about what I eat. I was always more concerned about, my appearance and my athletic performance. I had not ever considered that what I was eating had anything to do with my brain function. So I just had a huge aha moment for myself. I then dug in and tried to discover and learn everything I could, including calling Julia Ross, who wrote The Mood Cure, The Diet Cure, and The Craving Cure. Calling her and telling her how excited I was. I read her book and that I was studying, and that started the beginning of our friendship and actually my connection to the Alliance. And yeah, that was almost 5 years ago. That's pretty hard to believe. But so I learned amino acid therapy, specifically through Christina Veslick at the Academy. But also Julia's been a wonderful mentor, and then my own studies, of course. And I used amino acids on myself to quit binge drinking. And it's been just about 5 years. So yay, hopefully that answers that question. And that's why I like helping people with this, because it changed my life, and I know it can change other people's life, and I'm super passionate about it. And some days it just seems impossible to get the word out, and other days I'm really fired up. So with everybody's help, hopefully we can all get the word out. And somebody else asked what amino acid made the biggest difference in my life. It's this one that I'm holding right here, tyrosine. I was definitely dopamine deficient. and didn't know it, of course, until I went through Julia's charts. And tyrosine drives dopamine. When I took my first couple capsules of tyrosine, when I trialed it, it was like the world came into clear focus, and all of a sudden everything was in color, and I had a lift and energy and just excitement about life again. So that's my main one. Shelley says that was hers too. Yeah. Okay, so these are just the neurotransmitter sets. So there's four. There's serotonin, dopamine, which is actually the catecholamines. I don't know why I wrote dopamine. Serotonin, catecholamines, GABA, and endorphins. And then there are specific amino acids to help with depletion of each of those. Okay, so this is all going to make sense, I hope, in a minute. This is the trialing, or sorry, this is the process. Okay, amino acid therapy process. Filling out the chart, which I'm going to show you in a minute, cross-referencing with a precautions checklist, because we don't want you just digging in and using these. There's definitely some precautions that have to be taken. Ordering your amino acids, trialing kit is available. Trialing them, because one capsule wasn't enough for me. I actually took 3 at a time when I first started. That was my magical dose. Charting weekly and monitoring how your symptoms are resolving, and then adjusting the dosing if needed. So the example I'm going to use to explain this, hopefully successfully, is serotonin. And serotonin is our inner sunshine. It's one that I think a lot of people have heard of, because SSRIs are prescribed quite frequently. And that's a pharmaceutical medication for, I'm not going to go into that, but optimal levels of serotonin. These are the characteristics that a person with optimal levels would have. It's a positive outlook, emotional stability, self-confidence, self-esteem, flexibility, good sleep-wake cycle. And I'm not sure why I don't have this written. Oh, it's because it's up here. So those are the optimal levels. And then the depleted levels are, if you're deficient in serotonin, you might have social anxiety, the worrisome anxiety, so ruminating, under a dark cloud type depression, OCD symptoms, panic attacks, especially sleep onset insomnia, skin picking, irritability, PMS, and then I've got it highlighted there, late afternoon and late afternoon cravings, because serotonin starts to dip at 5 o'clock. That's the wine witch time, right? So I'm going to show you guys 2 examples of these charts. And so there's the craving type questionnaire, which is the one we're looking at right now. And Julia divided these into different types, which makes it easy to refer to them. So this is serotonin is type 1, and she calls it the depressed craver. Are your cravings caused by a deficiency of serotonin, your brain's inner sunshine? And then there's a whole list of craving types symptoms, if that makes sense. Like you wake up in the night and head for the fridge, you crave more in the fall or winter. I mean, hopefully you guys can kind of read through this. I don't want to read through all of it, but these questions all direct you to, you know, depending on how you answer the question, yes or no, and then rank it 0 to 10. That's how we're getting clues on where you're deficient. So if this resonates, and then I have different scoring thresholds, if it resonates then very likely you're going to want to trial the amino acids that help with low serotonin. The next one, this is a different chart, yet it's the same. It's the amino acid therapy chart, and it's the same information, but it's presented in a way that I've found, again, from working with my almost 800 people, that the craving doesn't always resonate with people. So, well, I don't have cravings, but this was the chart that went with Julia's mood cure. The craving chart went with the craving cure. The symptoms are the same. They're just being presented and phrased differently. So in the course, I have both charts because I have found that some people don't resonate with the craving types. So again, this is still type 1, it's still low serotonin. And this is really a great display here because you put 0 to 10 for your symptoms here: negativity, depression, winter blues, worry, anxiety. Then we look at what substances are used to self-medicate. And if you've been prescribed an SSRI or have used it in the past, that's also a clue. I'll break for a second to say, if you are on an SSRI, you would always want to separate by at least 6 hours your trialing of 5-HTP or tryptophan, and that's to avoid serotonin syndrome. And that's on the precautions sheet that I mentioned. So then we have the amino acid solutions. So 5-HTP or tryptophan. Those are the two that we would trial for low serotonin. Okay. And I have a trialing kit that Julia put together for me at her office. And it's different from her trialing kit because I requested more capsules, because what I find with people, the people with addictions that I work with, they need quite a bit more. Julia works mostly with people with food addiction and insomnia. And I just have found that my clients tend to be very depleted. So there's, I think, 10 to 12 capsules of each. So this is a great opportunity if you've never bought amino acids before and you don't have umpteen bottles sitting in the cupboard that you bought and never used, which some people have. But if you haven't, the kit has a sampling of everything, and it also includes that zinc tally I mentioned. So that is a good idea. It's found, there's the URL, juliarosscures.com, and then just look for the Nutrition for Recovery amino acid trialing kit. Okay, so here is the trialing sequence, you guys. You use the chart. So I just showed you the two charts, right, to determine your deficiency types. So say you're, okay, wow, I'll use the catecholamines, which is the low energy, lack of focus, lack of enthusiasm and drive, because that was mine with the tyrosine. So you break it open and you put it on your tongue, and then you wait 2 to 10 minutes. So you just start with the one capsule. And then if you don't feel any different, then you take another capsule in the same way. You want to break it open because it's absorbed much faster. You can swish it around in your mouth. It actually absorbs through your mouth as well as your gut. And keep going until you feel a change, positive change. It's either you're going to get more attention or be more relaxed or feel more positive, you know, depending on which neurotransmitter system was depleted and which amino acid you're taking. And then once you feel it working, that's your dose. So like I said, with my experiment on myself, when I got to 3 tyrosine, that was when the world all of a sudden was in color instead of black and white, and I started to smile. So, okay, that's my dose, 3. And then you use the guidelines to write the schedule. So I have in the course a so many handouts and resources that I've created from pulling from all tons of research and trying to condense it on one page. So here's an example of one. We're back to the serotonin here, but where I write out, this is like one of the handouts that you would get. Here's the amino acid, here's what you use it for, and then here's your per dose range. And there's no upper limit actually, but I cut it off at 3,000 for most of them. And I indicate what the upper limit range is, and that's because it's very rare, if at ever, this is like where the top of what I've seen somebody have to use, and people like to have cutoff. So that's the cutoff, and then we would discuss it. If you got to 3,000 milligrams of tryptophan and you still felt nothing, to me that means okay, there's something else going on. Like we need to look at B6 and zinc status. Are you actually converting your aminos to neurotransmitters? We could look at gut health. There's a whole lot of plan B ideas I have if the amino acids actually aren't working. Then I add in the timing. So for serotonin, for low serotonin, I always say you would take tryptophan twice a day, especially at 4, and then again at bedtime, so 4 and 10. And that's because it's great for late afternoon cravings. And then at 10, it's very sleep promoting because tryptophan turns into serotonin, which turns into melatonin. Okay, so there's worksheets like this. All right, then, like I said, there's precautions. I'm not going to go through them all right now, but contact me if you want a complete list of the precautions. It might be on the Alliance website as well. And then also super important is if you have a negative reaction from any of these aminos, you use 1 to 2 grams of vitamin C all at once, and that will flush out the effect. So there's never really any, once you check the precaution sheet, there shouldn't be any fear or stress in trialing these. Okay, so now let me check my chat again. And either Shelley or somebody asked, do I trial all of my clients? And yes, trialing is, I cannot even emphasize how important trialing is. Because if you don't trial, you might end up taking 1 capsule or whatever it says on the bottle, because it has to give a very generic dose, and you'd think it doesn't work. I mean, you have to trial it. You have to. Then you can figure out what dose works. And then I find with my clients, once you feel that it's working, you want to take them. So that's twofold also, because if you're just taking supplements and you're not feeling any effect, then you probably won't keep taking them. And what's the point? But the trialing, everybody's different. Sometimes people just lick their finger and dip it into powder, and that's all they needed. Sometimes people have to take all 6 of them. So it's so different. And thank you, Maggie. Maggie's in here. She says, I'm in Chris's course. It's amazing. It's a bargain for all the information and personal help. Awesome people in there too. Thanks, Maggie. Yeah, I really, you guys, I really, really would love to have as many people as possible in this course, because I really did put, 5 years into it. And I care so much. And there's unlimited support. It's HIPAA protected. So it's 16 weeks. It goes through all these steps. Steps 1 through 7, self-paced. Then every other week is a live Zoom call, and there's some camaraderie in the calls. People get to know each other. You can bring any of your charts to me live. But then also there's unlimited messaging just day to day, anytime you have a question. And so for the Alliance clients, okay, for everybody who's here, the coupon code AAS will give you $20 off. And then I also donate 20% to the Alliance. 20% of enrollment to the Alliance for Addiction Solutions. So the URL, you can find it on my website, nutritionforrecovery.com. And then another cool announcement is that I'm doing a free Eat Real Food workshop, and that's March 4th through the 11th. And we're just going to go 7 days. We're going to learn what and how to eat, do a kitchen clean out, do some meal planning, meal prep, and then I'll have 3 live calls for that. And that's also going to be in the Practice Better portal with this private messenger. And then I'm going to give a little plug to Eating Protein Saves Lives, which is Christina Veselick's nonprofit. And if you are familiar with that program, or even if you're not, this will nicely complement it. And then everything else, I mean, I will do a 20-minute free discovery call if you're interested. I have a free closed Facebook group. You can sign up for my newsletter from the website, nutritionforrecovery.com. So I know we went over, but we wouldn't have gone over if we didn't have all that tech problems at the beginning. So, and sadly, I still can't hear anybody, but if you want to put any other questions into the chat, then go for it. Okay, so yes, so I'll type in here to everybody in the chat, my Nutrition for Recovery. It's pretty easy to remember. Nutritionforrecovery.com. Everything can be found on the website. I also have like recordings of 10 different podcasts I've been on, and a free download and all of that. So it's so weird to not be able to hear you guys, but does anybody have any other questions? I love answering questions.
Can you still not hear us, Chris?
You want to call me? Here, just in case anybody jumped on late, I can't hear anything on my computer for some stupid reason. So Shelly's going to call me. We do what we have to, right? Hi.
You did a great job. I love it. I love how you did it. I just want to say thank you
Okay.
from the Alliance. And I like that they can get out to you, and I hope that you guys that are on here that can reach out to Chris. She's got some great information. I took the same classes as she did, and she knows what she's talking about. It works. The information is amazing. Chris, I'm very impressed because I love it. I love how you taught it, and you got it all figured out. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate that. Yeah, I put my everything into this course, and I just really think it's going to help so many people. And that's what I want to do. That's all I've wanted to do since I discovered this. So yeah, anybody who wants to reach out to me, I'm very open and available, happy to do a 20-minute call, and here to answer questions if you need it.
Excellent. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's on here. We have 15, which is an amazing amount of people. We want to say thank you. If you are a member, we will have another one next month. And if you're not, then come join us. But we want you to join because there's so much information here for whether you're a practitioner, whether you're a parent of somebody who struggles with addiction, or whether you struggle with addiction yourself. So look at joining our this nonprofit organization that is amazing. If you're a practitioner, we are or a professional, you sign up for the professional. The second week of the month, we have what's called a roundtable, which is strictly basically for professionals that want to learn from professionals. It gives you the chance as a professional to sign up and put your information on the Alliance. And you can also sign up to be a speaker. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Leanne. We appreciate it.
Hey, you're welcome. I need to figure out my computer problem here, but I will.
Okay, let us know what happened, 'cause we can hear each other,
Okay.
we just couldn't hear, you couldn't hear us.
Okay, I'm gonna hang up. Yeah, I was
Thanks,
just
guys.
gonna say, just to reiterate to what Shelley said, join the Alliance. This was a free public forum, but there's plenty of options for people that are members that not everybody has access to unless you join. And I'm answering some very last questions here. Yeah, I live in Alamo, California, if that's what somebody asked, but I work 100% online at this point. I already was mostly online before COVID anyway. But I guess if you're local, we could meet in person. That would be kind of fun. I'd be open to that. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again. This just was great.
Guys.
And until next time. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.